All right. Yes. It's pretty much downhill to the holidays now. I mean, if you aren't already. There are a lot of people already on holiday. I don't know how they manage that, but they must teach us.
Someone told me that we're closing on the 22nd, and that's next week. I'm like, no.
I know. No, it's mad. Christmas decorations are going up today, so big excitement.
During the rain.
Well, I mean, what am I, decorating an actual tree outside? What difference does it make? You're doing them inside? What was
you're doing them. I thought you were doing it for the entire neighborhood. Like it's going to go.
Oh, I see.
Christmas clothes house, gingerbread man.
No, so I might put up some lights. I'll see if I'm feeling grinchy or... It's just it's a ball ache because now you have to have a cable that goes from inside the house outside. Then you have to make sure that doesn't get wet because like last night it was raining the whole night. Mm-hmm. So basically I had lights tripping already without even putting on Christmas lights. I've got a lot to figure out. But yes, you're probably right. I should do that as well.
The new status symbol of wealth in this country should be Christmas lights because
I think
we don't have electricity.
I think it is, yeah.
Like
if you have Christmas lights, that means you have extra electricity.
Ample.
Yeah. Over and above the usual. So that counts you as being really, really rich and powerful. Anyway. All right. So funny thing happened. We all woke up quite late this morning. We managed to make it to the show on time, but everybody was like, you came in here like you'd just woken up.
Sure.
I came in here like a cat out of hell because I drove like a bat out of hell. Yeah. And then I was running in here, and then Ryan wasn't even here yet, and it started setting up. Anyway, we're all here. Everything's going. Everything's fine. It's like that December madness. I still have to do some shopping for Christmas, and I don't want to do that. You know what?
Well, this is Christmas, Chris. Do you wrap yourself?
Yeah, I have to wrap my own. Who else is going to wrap my presents?
No, man. You go to the shop, and then you just ask the lady to do it.
You know what the problem is with that? Yeah. Is that they take so long and they do it so beautifully, and then they're going to know it wasn't me who wrapped it.
So it has to have a bit of imperfection.
So I buy the cheap wrapping paper, and I sit there, and if you see how I wrap a present, it looks like the dog has unwrapped the present.
So like,
but at least you know it's from me.
I don't know if this translates, but like I know whenever we got gifts, my mom used to keep the wrapping paper. She used to like meticulously remove.
No, Rena does that too. Whenever anyone gives a present, then if it's in a little bag, she keeps the bag. If it's wrapped, she tries to save the wrapping paper.
Exactly, just reuse.
Especially if she really liked the wrapping paper. Oh, wow.
Sure.
Yeah. That is a total waste of time.
Exactly, just like...
really. You know, and it's not like they are parsimonious and they don't want to spend money. It's like they really like the wrapping paper. Yeah. They want to keep it going. That's a silly thing to do with your time. I can think of a million things I'd rather do than save wrapping paper. I mean, you just go and buy another roll for what, like 20 Rand? It's not
imagine taking 30 minutes just to like remove that corner. Nah.
So I'm absolutely devastated by this news that Ryan told us just now. I didn't know that this was even in the realm of possibility, because I remember when she came out as a breakout star, she was like the most exciting thing in music at the time.
Exactly. She recaptured that Brenda Fassie. Like the entire country was singing along with Zahara at some point. It was magical, man.
And Zahara died. Just put a picture of her up so you can remind yourself what she looked like. I mean, Zahara was, when we were doing Idols, she was like the example we used of someone local who'd done well. You know, they'd gone and successfully carved out a career for themselves. So multi-award-winning musician Zahara, real name Bulelwa Mkutukana, has passed away. The hit maker died at a private Johannesburg hospital Monday night. Her fiancé was by her bedside. She, of course, wrote Loliwe, which was such a great song. I remember I would sing it. I had it on my playlists. It played on the plane when you got on the plane. It was playing all over South Africa and restaurants and bars, and people loved it.
Yeah.
And she was admitted to hospital with liver complications, which I think might have something to do with Puza.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, like, when I went and took this picture of her now, they've got like a whiskey sponsor as the sponsor of the website.
I can see it just peeking out.
That's terrible, right? Anyway, so it's apparently Puza had something to do with it. She, I don't know this for a fact. Again, This is all speculation. But what we hear is that she had liver complications. Liver can only really be, unless she was jaundiced, and even that might have something to do with Puza, but who knows, you know?
Yeah.
It's just very sad. She passed away around 9 p.m. last night. Family will release a statement soon. She was with Paul when she passed away. That's her fiance. The family spokesperson. I love the way that these family spokespeople come out of the woodwork on the day it happens. And I'm trying to think who in my family would be
the spokesperson.
Yeah,
right?
Who would be our family spokesperson if something terrible happens? Like, who nominates themselves as family? I'd probably have to be it if it wasn't me who died, right?
I had this exact same thought watching the news yesterday, and
because you remember even when Charlene Surtee Richards died, there was suddenly a family spokesperson.
But this is the weirdest one, Gareth. So, like, they once killed the bodyguard of the VC of Forte, right?
Yeah, and not that anyone knew except
exactly.
you.
And that family has a spokesperson.
Yeah,
I'm like, who's that in my family?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that it's very sad because I met her once or twice and I thought that she was absolutely lovely. That's all. So I'm just very sorry for Zahara and for her family and just for everybody who is a fan of her music this morning.
Yeah.
I love the way Gareth thinks he's a doctor. There are many other reasons for liver disease. Listen, Carl, I'm speculating. I've heard your theories about the Kennedy assassination, and let me tell you, leaves a lot to be desired. You make shit up in your head all the time. I could go back in the comments section and embarrass you horrifically if you'd like. Yeah, but we don't know what the cause is. So he's absolutely right. Anyway, that's breaking news. That happened this morning. That the story came out. So you are a little bit obsessed with AI-generated series, an AI-generated series. Someone told me about a brilliant new series yesterday. In fact, it was my brother. It's a series about like World War II pilots.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that trailer. But tell us about your one. What's yours?
Okay, cool. I'm kind of distracted.
Mine's called Masters of the Air.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to talk about because I also heard about that one.
Okay, so Masters of the Air. It looks amazing. Apparently, it's coming out in January.
There's got to be like a correlation between the Roman Empire and World War II, like with guys. Like we all just gravitate towards World War II.
We can't help it, right?
Yeah, we can't help it.
But I think it's also because World War II and the Roman Empire were world things.
Yeah.
Like the whole of, like if you live in Indochina, World War II affected you.
Yes.
In South Africa, World War II affected us. There's no part of the world that was untouched by this except maybe Antarctica, and nobody lives there.
Yeah. And
the same goes for the Roman Empire because in its day, in that period around, where BC became AD, it truly affected all the people of the known world at that point.
Yes.
It's like all of North Africa, all of Europe, all of West Asia, probably up to India, I'd say, because they found Roman coins in places in East India. I mean, it's just unbelievable how far that stretched. So maybe that's also one of the reasons. But this AI-generated series, what is
this? This thing is totally made up, Gareth. I'm guessing some guy fed an algorithm somewhere about just vegetables, and it's like the vegetable war, right? And it's so intricate. Like this
vegetable war.
This guy goes in about before the carotene, like what he calls the carrots, the carotenoids. And they attacked the Broccolian Empire.
But is this like the what a Night of the Triffids or whatever? What was that?
It's something like that, right? It's something along those lines. So that's gotta be like the backbone of it. But it is so like I find myself enthralled every time this man drops something on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Like, yeah, dude. And like I saw this past weekend, I just went through the comments and there's like 1 million comments and we're all just like, yeah, when are you dropping the next part? And it's totally nonsense. It's totally made up. like this man.
The Day of the Triffids.
Like the pictures.
It's a John Wyndham novel. Yeah, that's what it was.
The pictures are AI generated. I'm guessing the story is AI generated because it is not. There's no person who can come up with that. I loaded a video
so in other words, it's crap.
No, it's not crap. It's really good, but it's surprisingly good.
Well,
it catches you off guard.
You make it sound horrible.
Oh, no. Like I am self-aware, Gareth. I know this is not for everyone. I don't know how it caught me, but like, yeah, the lore is so deep. I'm like, yeah, like the Broccolian Empire. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They had this great cauliflower.
So what? It's broccoli versus carrots.
Yeah,
essentially.
But now,
do humans get caught up in this?
Oh no, because the carrots once came to Earth, right? So now because the carrots were at war with the rabbit empire, Now the rabbits came here as pets in order to stop the carrot uprising before it happens. So it's like,
okay, we've officially run out of ideas. Hollywood, if they make this movie, if they make this series, if they take the AI stuff that is this already a series?
This is already a series. Like, there's a clip. Come on. Like, I'm sure there is.
No.
Please watch the clip. Just like 5 seconds of the clip.
Oh, God.
Before the carrots took over the galaxy, they came from a planet they shared with other sentient plant species. The warrior monks known as the Broccolarians created a powerful civilization that threatened the carotenoids. The Broccolarians were wise, simple, and believed in guarding one thing they valued above all else, the great cauliflower tree, which they felt had sprouted the initial seeds that gave them life. A guard was always stationed to make sure only the worthy could visit it. One day, strangers had arrived. The simple Broccolarians were convinced that all beings were by nature honest, and so granted passage to a simple carotenoid that said that the tree had called him. To the horror and shame of the rest of that guard's days, he saw the worst of tricks performed before him. The tree was burned before he could do anything. That day, all of broccoli kind lost their way. Most retreated into another region to meditate on wisdom. But that guard, who became known as Iron Stem, knew what this meant. He knew the carrots would find the great tools of power across the planet. And so he quickly went...
Okay, no, I genuinely, I can't actually do... Like, I was about to slip into a coma. You watched this... How long is that whole thing?
Okay, cool. So they are about like 2 minutes, a minute long.
And how many episodes we got?
I think we have like 8 episodes now, right?
I mean, I do like the graphics. The graphics are very impressive.
Because before, like when the Broccolian Empire rose to power, they defeated the potatoes, and it's like, so
they basically involve all the vegetables.
Yes, yes, it is so ridiculous.
Who do you reckon is the most evil vegetable? Because I would put onions have got to be, right.
Yeah, onions, right? Like
just because of their smell and their taste and. There's something about onions that they change everything around them.
Exactly.
Onions are the evil ones. Or it could be the chilies. Technically not a vegetable, technically a fruit, but I think the chilies could be up there.
It's like,
because they come at you from left field. You don't know what to expect, and then it's like a habanero or worse.
Yo, I've had one of those. Like these things. I forgot what the scale is called, right? But like, yeah, I've had one of like just what was really high.
I know it's the substance is capsicum.
Yeah.
It's called the
Scoville scale.
No?
Scoville scale, right?
Close. You're close to it. That's very close. Scoville.
The
Scoville scale.
Yeah.
And the Scoville scale, I went to this chili shop in Texas once when we were in Austin. And they had it was like the biggest hot sauce shop you can imagine. I wouldn't say like a macro, but I'd say at least like a Clicks, but only hot sauces. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I can imagine.
And they arranged them from like mild to like insane, like 10 out of 10 star hot. They had their own rating and they had the Scoville scale that explained to you what it is, how it exponentially increases. And they had a couple of bottles behind glass that if you wanted to buy those, you had to prove that you didn't have medical conditions.
You have to sign a waiver.
It's like really, really deadly. And I bought a bottle of 1 or 2 of them because those very, very burny ones are also super expensive. And they sell them as like
concentrated death.
Yeah, but also like a drop.
Yeah.
You put a drop into a stew or something and it makes it all unbearably hot. So people don't really buy them unless it's a joke. But we actually had... we had a competition on the show once when we were still in our old premises where we got a guy in who could eat chilies.
Yeah. So like I'm one of these people that like have a very high chili tolerance, a high spice tolerance. I tried the 1 chip challenge. It totally bombed because it was not that spicy. I eat those Korean like noodles like 3 times just for lunch. It's just fun. I don't get this stuff.
Yeah, I don't get burns. Like I don't find chili unpleasant. In fact, I've tried the hot stuff. I bought a couple of bottles of sauces. The one had like a skull and like a cloak on as a lid. It was bizarre. I think I even brought it in one morning and put it on the show. But I love a hot sauce. And I know lots of people who do. You either love it,
or you don't.
In which case you're obsessed with it and you have too many bottles of hot sauce at home. I have nothing to actually put the hot sauce on, but I got all the hot sauces. And then you get people like my mother or like a lot of my friends, one of my girlfriends is she can't stand anything hot. Like if she even gets like the Nando's mild sauce on something, tickets, she can't eat it.
Sure.
Anyway, Cyril's the most evil vegetable, says Dave, going straight for the kill.
Sure.
It's amazing though, how many people wake up in the morning thinking about Cyril. I do not. I have a pepperdew tree, hectic, a little green one. Can add hot to a stew. That's from the chairperson of the comment section.
Pepperdews are really down there though.
Yeah, pepperdews are not burny. Pepperdews and they're sweet.
Yeah.
Pepperdew is a combination of like the sweet and by the way, pepperdews, they don't even know what that is in the rest of the world. It's a very South African thing, hey?
Well, I always have this joke that everything that we like comes from South America. Well, I guess except for pepperdews. Like tomatoes, South America.
Yeah.
Like everything that you like probably comes from South America.
I think that listen, if you want to talk about hot sauce, I could talk all morning. It's a thing that I remember a friend of mine who lived in the Eastern Cape. He was on a mission. He would go all over the world. Wherever he went, he'd buy different hot sauces. And he had a collection that, I kid you not, there was no one in this country who I think had a bigger collection of hot sauces. And he was obsessed with it. He would like try, almost like, a wine taster. Yeah. Where they go like this, and then they take a little bit and they spit out the wine so they don't get drunk, so they can keep testing 28 more wines without having to feel drunk.
Yes.
This guy would do the same. He'd take like a nacho or something. He'd put some hot sauce on it. He'd try it. Then he'd go, and then he'd go to the next one. But he'd try such a small amount that he could taste just the sauce. Yeah. You'd see he was he was obsessed with it. And I there was a moment where I found myself almost being a bit jealous of him.
Where he could go through all of that.
No, just that he had this collection and he was so into it. I love people who are completely obsessed with one thing. I love people like that. And even if it's a weird thing that I'm not that interested in, their obsession is so curious and interesting to me that I could just watch the way that they light up like a Christmas tree. To go back to our initial discussion,
wait, like the Broccolian Empire, Gareth.
Well, clearly, I mean, this is yours. You like super turbo nerdy AI series about vegetables.
So someone in the comments said like, "Oh, the artichokes came through." I'm like, "Yeah, I just watched that episode where the artichokes came."
The artichokes.
It's so
I'm
bad.
telling you, we are out of ideas. Anyway, as soon as I can't taste the food, I'm out. Says Elon. Yeah, I think that's probably about right.
But so now you get people, right? So our own Simpiwe.
Yes.
She can't stand Zinger wings. If they are hot.
Too hot for her.
Too hot. I'm like, Zinger wings are literally nothing. She's like, nah, I can't.
Yeah.
She's like, she goes all red. Like,
yeah.
The snivels, the tears come. Zinger wings. I'm like, all right, guys.
I also think here, Gareth's clearly a black man, says SM. In a white skin. He hates the cold weather. He eats chilies and he can pronounce African words properly. And then a whole bunch of emojis. Well, that doesn't make me black enough. According to some people, I'm like evil and racist, but then who cares about them, right? It's bizarre. I don't know where this hot sauce thing comes from. It might come from my mother's mother who was born in Jamaica. Yeah. But then I don't know that there's a direct link between Jamaica and hot sauces.
But wouldn't you say the Caribbean is very
they're into their sauces, yeah, for sure. But it's more like they like their jerk chicken and they kind of they like flavor. I'd say that they're into maybe spicy food, but I don't know about the Bernie shit. I got into it so late in life, and I can't help thinking that's part of the reason that I love it is because once you already have a very settled palate, like you've already decided. When you're young, everything is extreme. Ice cream is the best thing ever, and all you could do is eat ice cream. And if you have, that's why you can't introduce children to things like sushi. Yeah, they're not ready for it. Later on in life, they'll get into it, and they'll be thrilled that they did. But I think there's an age where you have to get into this stuff. I get Zinger wings. I have to buy adult nappies on my way home, says Carl. Okay.
But I think that's a KFC problem, not a spice problem.
Yeah, might be a cleanliness of the kitchen problem. I made so many different sauces, says John Bad Dog. I sold it in the Observatory Marketplace at the end of Bowling Club. My sauce was called Watch Out. Nice.
So these are the people that also intrigue me, Gareth. These people that take it a step further, that go
And
into
make their
craft beer. They make their own.
They sit with a laboratory, like they're putting bird's eye chilies and they mix it with some habanero ones. I'm trying to think what that one was called that I bought in Texas. It was supposedly at that stage, and they're always developing new ones because they're basically genetically engineering. And some of these chilies are so hot that I think if any animal ate them, the poor animal would probably die of stomach cancer 5 minutes later. But it's an interesting thing. Someone told me once that with chicken food, what they do to stop rats and things from eating it, because mammals are the only ones that can taste the capsicum.
Yeah.
So with birds, you can put chili in the food and they don't taste it. It doesn't put them off. So if you want to put, rats and mice and other rodents and mammals off of the chicken feed, you just add a whole bunch of chili to it.
Whoa.
Chickens carry on. They're absolutely fine with it, which is why birds don't really get upset if they bite straight into a hot chili.
Yeah.
To them, it's great.
That makes sense.
Makes
I've never
sense,
thought
right?
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I could not stand coffee until I was 20, says Patrick. He's arguing my case for me here. I drink at least 3 cups a day now. We Indians, you've got to give credit where credit is due. We don't breastfeed. We give our newborns Nando's sauce. Yeah, listen. And in South Africa, if you eat a curry made by an Indian man or woman who has passed down a recipe through the family for years, you will never, ever be able to satisfy yourself with restaurant curry ever again.
You will never. This is why I
obviously depending. There's some people who make shit curry, no matter who they are. But by and large, those are the best curries I've ever had.
This is why I can't stand to buy commercial Indian, because I'm like, I've tasted the best Indian food and I can't go back.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what's in the, when she tells you nah, it's a special spice mixture. Yeah. You have me there.
That is an interesting point. Proper says, that's why bird shit burns car paint. Listen, I've heard horror stories about these hardy-das who shit from trees and it lands on people's cars and they can never get the mark off.
Dude, so I'm walking through here. Basically, we live in a jungle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking out, just on my morning run out, and then this bird shits on me,
this morning.
It burns, not today. This was I think this was maybe 3 months back. This bird shits on me. This thing burnt me. Legit. It was hot. And then I told my friend, I'm like, oh, dude, this bird shat on me. He's like, yeah, bird, because he's he's a zoologist. He's like, oh, no, it does burn. I'm like, wait, what?
What the hell did hardy-das eat to make burny shit?
I have no idea.
Oh, they're disgusting. There was one hanging around as I drove out of my house this morning, and it didn't even fly away. My car was probably a foot or two from it, 30, 40 centimeters from the thing. Wasn't even frightened. It stood there and kind of looked at me yeah, what you going to do? These hardy-das.
They're not in the wild, right? They're just in suburbia.
Yeah.
That's their natural environment.
They are not, I don't know if in the wild they would survive. Something would eat them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of crocodiles or something that's even worse. Because they just look like they taste terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, look like pterodactyls.
Horrible things. Okay. Here we go. To prove the point, Rachel says our parrot's food has red chilies in it. There we go. Excellent. I agree. Indian curries are the best. And then Dave says, because 2 people in the comments section started off the morning worrying about 2 bills.
Yeah.
So the NHI was officially approved. Discovery's going to be rich. What, Discovery's so poor at the moment?
They were just waiting for their big break.
And then someone else was worried about the, let me just find this thing. Because it's amazing, what people wake up being concerned about.
Well, someone else was worried about Cyril, what Cyril did.
Cyril, someone said here,
whoa.
Let me just find this thing. Apparently there's some other bill that's been pending. I'm not sure. It's something to do with free speech or whatever. But it's the NHI bill and then the free speech, something or other. Guys, you got to remember, we've got such an incompetent government. And I know that this is scant comfort to people who are genuinely worried every day about all the incursions that the government is making on our rights. And they are. And they're trying to get their filthy, greedy hands on every single cent of our money. But let me just remind you, our government are crooks, and they're not even good at being crooks. They're not good at passing. They can pass laws, but they can't enforce the laws. I mean, I saw Becky Cele yesterday on the news, and he was talking about the 10,000 new policemen that we spoke about yesterday on the show. And he's going to deploy these policemen and women, and it's going to change everything, and people will be safe. I'm like, I just don't believe you. And you don't believe him either, Bakh'abantu. This guy is just a bullshit artist. And none of them can do anything properly. Right?
Yeah, basically. Just throw me back in.
Yeah, I thought you disappeared for a second.
I did. I don't know. The computer just crashed. But like, so now I get this whole, I
Don't
get
worry
the
about
outrage.
Don't worry.
But
so they've passed the NHI bill. What? You think that that's suddenly going to be immediately enforced everywhere, and they're gonna start the ball rolling, and it's just gonna be fantastic? I agree. It's not the best news that they passed this bill, but you know what the ANC are doing too? They're trying to get some bills through because there's no guarantee they're going to be in charge next year. So we should be encouraged by that. We should be feeling good about the fact that these guys probably won't have their 50+1.
Yep.
So they're pushing this stuff through.
Also, this is the same government who built e-tolls and they still can't enforce them. This
Correct.
is the same government who takes 10 years to fix a bridge.
So I'm going to say this. A bit of civil disobedience will scupper all their best laid plans.
Yeah.
So let's just bear that in mind. And remember, whatever happens next year, election-wise, we may have to have a coalition government, and they may just rescind this legislation.
Yep.
So it's not the end of the road. Not yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see. As Luando says, the NHI is for getting national votes. Absolutely. Because people are so stupid, they think they're going to get something for free.
Yep.
And then JP says the Popia Act was passed a few years ago, but I still get spam. Yes, of course. So that proves, like, if any of this stuff actually made a difference. And I mean, I don't understand why companies bother with BEE anymore. They should just, like, it's just lie.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't comply with this shit.
It's how I've always described myself, guys. I'm like, if you guys ever hired me on the basis that I'm black, on the basis that I'm a male,
you would hate it.
On the basis that I'm like of my gender, of the basis where I have sexual relations with. I don't know if I'd be proud of that.
I know you would.
And I don't get why people like just distill themselves into that one aspect of their lives. Like, we're talking about people who like one thing, right? Like who get obsessed by one thing. But these people get obsessed by just how the world looks at them, and they just run crazy with it.
Well, okay, let's turn our attention to something really important, because we know at this time of year, the Metro Police and the traffic police all over the country, because there's a national traffic police too, believe it or not. These guys are all looking to put people behind bars for all kinds of minor things and major things. They'll look at your car and decide, thumbsuck, that looks unroadworthy. You owe me some money.
I once had an incident like this. Don't you remember? I once drove my mom's old jalopy, and then they told me I don't have a battery clamp. I'm like, what is that?
What the hell's it?
Opened up, pulled out the batteries, like, yeah, you see, you don't have a battery clamp. And then the car was unroadworthy.
So they wanted money.
Yes.
That wasn't about the battery.
It wasn't about the battery clamp.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I don't do anymore. And I think every time I hear about these campaigns, I wonder why anyone still does. But that's driving under the influence. Okay. Yeah. Many South African drivers still get behind the wheel after a few drinks. Some share the mindset that I won't get caught, while others pull up a traffic app to sidestep police blockades. But that's not a foolproof way of behaving. And it's also really, really dangerous and stupid. So there's this business called aware.org. They're dedicated to promoting and supporting the responsible use of alcohol, with programs targeting specific areas of harmful alcohol use: underage drinking, consuming alcohol during pregnancy, and road safety. And to tell us about a campaign that they're doing at the moment, which I think is pretty damn clever, I've got Jacques Shalom on the line. Hi, Jacques. How are you?
Hey, morning, gents. How's it going?
Good. You're the chief creative officer at Clockwork Media. You guys have done a campaign. It's like a social responsibility campaign to try and get people to not drink and drive. I can't believe we still have to convince people of this in 2023. But tell me about the campaign, and let's start there.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people don't. It's kind of like the warnings on cigarette packages. You read these things, you kind of just gloss over it. I think this whole finger wagging, you will die if you get behind the wheel or if you smoke, they don't really work. People are pretty desensitized to them.
Mm-hmm.
So this actually came out of a brainstorm for something completely different. But the whole premise of this is that what's happening this year is that there's a lot more cops on the roads, and they're also armed with something called a EBAT test, which is pretty much a breathalyzer that is go directly to jail. You don't need to take blood. They're completely admissible in court.
That means that you can't say, "Oh, I've just taken some cough syrup," or it's within. I drank last 6 hours ago. Any of that stuff. In other words, you will go straight to jail until your court appearance if you get arrested over the holidays. So this is not fun for anybody.
No, and it kind of led us to the insight, and I think you guys would all agree. I think a lot of people aren't that afraid of dying, but I think the thought of spending a couple of days in prison with some hardened criminals is something that a few parts of your body will kind of want to stay away from.
Right.
And there's a reason there's all these prison jokes that go around. I'm sure there's some truth to it. Luckily, I have not been pulled over drunk driving.
Haven't experienced it yourself.
No, and hopefully I never will. So I pretty much landed on the idea that for a lot of drunk drivers, their holiday accommodation, where they'd be spending the Christmas holidays or the festive season, will be in a police holding cell or in a police jail. So
in other words, I'm seeing all kinds of ads of like, this is your holiday destination with the cell. Is that about right?
Exactly. So we started off with we partnered with Daddy's Deals. It's one of the, I think most of the people know it. It's one of the biggest travel booking sites in South Africa. I think they've got a database of over 1 million people, and we positioned these as last-minute festive getaways. And when you click through, it gives you a whole bunch of different options you can stay in. There's things like a few nights away with friends, or 2 nights at a little lock-up and stay. Weekend accommodation with arresting views. And when you click through to them, that's when, for most people, the penny will start dropping. But it pretty much follows the exact same premise of how the Daddy's Deals are, already positioned. But it's things like 50 people per room sharing, 3 meals served, the choice of yes or no.
Take a look at. Let's let people see. Here's Sun City.
There we are.
Escape to Sun City, it says jail, which is not so great. Let's be clear, Sun City jail is not like the Sun City that we're all thinking of. Drunk drivers stay for free, don't drink and drive. This is very clever stuff. And then obviously Cape Town comes into it too, because you got nice prisons down there. Isn't that right?
Yeah, beautiful prisons. I think we're very highly regarded with our prison tourist destinations. I think a lot of people come here just for our prisons and the great food. So there's also a whole bunch of digital out of home going out soon. So we're pretty much covering all the main tourist destinations. That's one of the other deals on Daddy's Deals. And yeah, it seems to be going pretty well so far. Obviously, you never know how much this actually directly affects the road fatalities. I think last year, like 1,400 people were killed just over the Christmas period. So obviously we want to do work that, gets through to people in a fresher way. And ultimately, hopefully people don't get behind the wheel, because I know a few people who have done it. A few people have lost their lives, and it's just a really, really dumb way to die.
I love the campaign. I just think we've got to do, all of us, whatever we can to keep good South Africans out of jail. To keep people from hurting themselves, hurting other people. You never know when you take to the road what other idiots there are. And if you're not in your most sober mind, you might not make the right decisions, and it could cost you your life, or worse. You could have a horrible life for the rest of it, living in one of these terrible places. So I love the campaign, and well done, Jacques. Let's not forget, one of the best campaigns that South Africans still think about is that one where they basically, have this prison scene where this guy is like, Papa, did you know? Or whatever it was.
You should not have drank. You're like, you should not have drank.
So now you're taking it in that direction with your new holiday destinations. I like it.
Yeah. I think the one you're referring to is Papa Vaghvia. I mean,
Papa
I think
Vaghvia,
they use actual prisoners. I mean, and
Nah.
it's hitting a similar part. Going like, I really don't want to stay there. I don't think anyone does. I don't think anyone in their right mind
No.
would want to go to prison.
Definitely not.
I was actually having a conversation about 2 weeks back with Muzi. We're talking about campaigns, like even like Dumb Ways to Die and Arrive Alive. What happened to that stuff? Because this is, I think it's also directly linked to why the stuff, out of sight, out of mind, people do forget.
They do forget.
And you do hear those stories. Like you do hear those stories with like, oh, I drink better when I'm drunk. No, you don't. Just Uber.
Oh. All right, I love it. Shark, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a good morning.
Good stuff. And a happy Christmas and all that stuff.
To you too. Stay safe, guys.
Very good. Thanks, man. Cheers. Good stuff. A little campaign that they've got going on. Try and get people to not drive drunk. I seriously can't believe we still have to be like persuading people to do this.
There's so many other ways now, like around it.
I mean, just think about they apparently there's a notice going around. I don't know whether these things are real or not, but why take the chance? This one is all about how just be careful on the roads because roadblock dates, all Fridays through to Sundays, no mercy, 1 beer is over the limit. Jail till hearing on Monday. Car will be impounded if arrested. And then they say they'll only give your car back if it's in roadworthy condition, no outstanding fines, and license up to date, which for a lot of people means they won't get their car back. And stay safe over the holidays. Just be careful because there are a lot of crooks on the roads. And I'm talking about the police. I'm talking about other people pretending to be the police. Just don't take a chance. If you can, stay away from all of it. And I find like if I know I'm going to go out and have a drink or two, Uber. Even though it costs me money. Safer than having get your car impounded or way worse than that.
Like the best way of not dealing with these problems is just not doing it. Don't give them a reason. Don't give the cops a reason to pull you over because you know it'll go down.
Oh, no, if they can find a reason, they'll use it. Horrible. All right, well, there we go. That's aware.org, and you can find out more about them by going to guess what? Aware.org. Very good. So we got our window seat with travel.co.za just now. And last week we spoke about the terrible things that can happen in a plane or in an Airbnb or anywhere else.
And these hotels, like people that lock themselves outside the hotel room naked. Come on.
Isn't that hilarious? And
why are you eating naked?
Apparently it happens all the time. Sure. This is what I was thinking is, who orders room service? I still don't know how this works. I order room service. And they strip off all their clothes. They sit there naked eating on the side of the bed.
But like it's that mentality.
And then they want to get the tray outside of their room because they're like, I don't want a room to smell of food. And they put it in the passage outside and then the door closes and they're left with no clothes. Why? Why were you eating naked?
No, but you're at a hotel, Gareth. You need to...
But be naked.
Yes. you need to feel yourself.
So this is just so sad. Nelson Mandela's once glorious Houghton house now stands abandoned and run down.
Yeah.
It hosted dignitaries like the Clintons and Michael Jackson. The mansion was repeatedly deserted due to unpaid bills leading to utility cuts. Allegations of neglect and a possible sale emerged from Mandela's grandchild Mbuso against the trustees. Former ANC spokesperson Carl Niehaus has expressed dismay over the mansion's decline. Well, we're expressing dismay over your decline, but that's a whole separate conversation. The municipality's confidentiality policy conceals the extent of the debts. Plans to transfer ownership to the trust await family consultation. The state of the former home has sparked concerns about his legacy's care, coinciding with the 10th anniversary of his passing. You know, it is 10 years since he died, and that house is the house he died in.
Yeah.
And you would think that without... This is not controversial. He's probably the most famous South African that ever lived.
True.
And are his family so venal and full of squabbling and internecine battles and incapable of even paying the electricity and water bills that the house of the most famous man, the house that he died in, must go to rack and ruin?
Yes.
Clearly it must.
Yes.
I wonder, because of course his previous house, the house that he moved into when he was president here in Houghton, that house has been turned into
the foundation.
No, it's a hotel.
Hotel.
Oh. It's a hotel you can stay in. They have functions there. It's a venue. It's no longer even, I think, administered in any which way by the family. Maybe the trust or the foundation have something to do with it, but not the family. And they've got a statue there, and it's beautiful, and they've maintained it beautifully. And you think, wow, I'm in the house of Nelson Mandela, and it's very, very special to be there. And then you think it's even more special to visit the last house he lived in.
Yes.
The house that he died in.
But this is like a combination of two factors. You always bring up that like what? By the
know
third
what to say
generation,
about
the
this.
family squander all the fortune made by the grandparents by the third generation, right? And then this is also like, we don't care. Like these people are showing us that like, if we don't like, you see how you lighted up and how disappointed you are. There's no that sort of remorse.
There's none of that from the family.
From the family, from the ANC, from
they don't
anyone.
Care. They don't care about their own grandfather's legacy.
There's none of that.
Well, I mean,
like, what, can we make money from it?
Mandela Mandela, who's an MP, who's supposedly, Madiba's heir and eldest grandson, he gets very fired up about Palestine, but they can't even look after his own grandfather's home.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, your grandfather's home, the home he died in here, guys, sort that out.
Yep.
How embarrassing that it's in ruins.
It can't make them money, Gareth. What can they get from it?
It's like an abandoned shell. It's run down. And what? All over unpaid bills. So they all just left. They just abandoned the building. No one thought, well, if we just fix this, if we just pay that. Are you telling me that these people don't have enough money? The Mandelas don't have enough money? What, have they spent it all on what?
No one knows.
It's outrageous, man.
Nah, it is.
It's unbelievable. They were of the opinion. Now, Ted seems to know something here. Ted is obviously an insider. He says the kids or grandkids that stayed there were of the opinion that the trust must pay the bills. The estate is still not finalized, as far as I know. 10 years later.
Whoa.
The hell was that?
Ryan just fell like a ton of bricks.
Jesus, Ryan. I just heard like a thud and Jesus. I mean, this is gonna look like the Mandela house if we carry on like this. Holy shit. All right. Well, anyway, he seems to know something, Ted. I feel like this is a very good metaphor for South Africa.
Yeah.
The great man is gone. Are you all right?
Sorry, I had a bit of a speed wobble.
Whoa.
Holy shit, Ryan. He just went for a slide.
Like,
did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay, pity. We got a guest who's about to join us in a second. Angela Wood, but we get to it in a second. I think that this Mandela House situation is a metaphor for what is going on in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's like this generation of leaders, if you want to call them that, for the ANC, for South Africa at large. These are not people who can look after anything, even pay electricity and water bills in a house.
That's true.
Stop it from going to rack and ruin.
Yep. And there's a certain thing to speak about people who don't know or take care of their past. Like, you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes. I don't know, man.
It's exactly the right line.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn our attention to Angela. I'm going to tell you something. Ryan must have been super excited to see you, Angela, because I've never seen anyone slide and slip and fall like that. He didn't look very happy at all. Are you all right?
I'm good.
You didn't get caught in the crossfire.
No, I didn't. I just heard it.
Yo, even the plug fell. Yo.
I just saw, because I heard the noise and I saw Bakh'abantu's face and I'm like, what have you seen that I didn't?
Sure.
Must we
Shame.
prepare for war?
No, Ryan
Anyway.
literally fell for our guest.
So Angela is the general manager for sales development at Thompson's Holidays, and it's great to see you. What we've got to talk about today in the window seat, it's our opportunity to let people in on some of the secrets behind travel, to give them some great ideas, to help them live vicariously through those people who have been to nice places.
Yep.
I mean, I've learned a lot during the past couple of weeks on this show, but today we're talking about last minute holidays. So many people, I'm not going to point fingers, me,
Yeah.
leave things to the last minute and then they go, actually, I'm sure I can scrape together a couple of rand here and maybe go somewhere, just somewhere local. Doesn't need to be a complicated thing. I could go overseas if there's something that's affordable and easy enough to arrange and there's accommodation there and I can get flights. But last minute holidays, I think a lot of people are very, very interested in. So let's talk about some of these quickly because you've been in the business for 30 years.
I have.
Yeah. Just pull that a little bit closer. There we
Okay,
go.
good.
All right. So first of all, tell us about you. 30 years in travel. I mean, that's a fun business to be in, but you must have seen it all.
I've seen it all. It's been a wonderful challenge. It's never a dull moment in travel. If anything can go wrong, it's always travel. But we resilient, like our travelers in South Africa, which is good news.
Yeah.
And I think there's always that excitement. And once you've got travel in your blood, you just can't leave, you know.
Well, this is the time of year too, because people spend 11 months of the year working their backsides off, and then they usually manage to find the time and the money to get a little bit of a holiday going.
And I think you need it. I mean, we all know how hard we work, and whether you can try and get away for a weekend or save up till the end of the year to travel, it really is so rewarding. And for me, there is no better than traveling for your kids as well. I mean,
excellent.
You know, go to school, you can learn a lot, but when you travel, you can learn a lot more.
So, Angela, let's talk about last minute holidays. What are the most popular and sought after holiday destinations for South Africans this festive season?
So we've had a lot of sales, Mauritius, which is obviously our most popular destination. And there are some last minute deals that are still available, especially from Cape Town.
Okay.
So we've got a few seats available there on certain dates.
Sure.
For the rest, there is some availability, but you obviously just have to play around with dates.
I'm just thinking, so for Mauritius, it's because the flight's not too long.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yep.
Especially if you've got kids. You don't want to do that.
Yep.
Second of all, it's not over the top expensive like maybe the Seychelles would be, or the Maldives, or Europe, or any of those things.
Yeah.
So it's in the affordable category, let's say. And there are beautiful resorts, gorgeous beaches. People just want to get out of South Africa. Maybe they just feel like a little bit of a foreign destination is what they require. Are there any other things I've left out?
I think to go all inclusive is what it's all about, because it can work out pricey. But if you go all inclusive, you've got all your meals, all your drinks, and it really makes it for a great holiday, because, you know, the kids want ice cream here, cool drink here. So for me, that would be the best, is to go all inclusive.
Right.
But there are other destinations. As you said, there's a lot of local available. Even some places in Cape Town, obviously New Year, more of a challenge. Got down the coast.
Is New Year the most popular time in Cape Town?
It is indeed. Yes. Yeah. Everybody wants to be in Cape Town over New Year.
I heard about people, and a friend of mine who lives in Cape Town told me this. They climb up Lion's Head to see the fireworks at night on New Year's Eve.
You see how dark it is?
It's dark as hell. The reason she told me is she said you could see the torches coming down.
Yes.
You have to have your head red if you're climbing a mountain on New Year's Eve.
Well, you better not be drinking and climbing.
No, because you're and there are all kinds of dangerous people hiding in the bushes. Right? Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to last minute travel, that's obviously, it's not preferable, because you miss out on opportunities to do advanced bookings. How well disciplined are people when it comes to booking in advance?
I think you get those that are and have planned ahead, those going to the States, those going to Europe. Those are more well planned. But when there's a lot of people that are only finding out now whether they're getting a bonus or not. So there is a lot of last minute requests. And as I say, we can look and try and see, budget dependent, on where we can send them. But no, I think, as I say, the more further destinations, the more like your Rivermenis, you're going to visit Father Christmas, that type of thing, is more well-traveled. I mean, more in advance.
More well-planned.
Yeah, more well-planned. But there's a lot of last minute. Yeah.
Okay, so are there still deals? Are there still seats on flights? Are there still rooms available? Are there still hotels and resorts that have gaps?
So we spoke about Seychelles. I saw that there's actually quite a lot of availability in Seychelles, which is interesting. And there's a lot more airlines now. So over COVID, a lot of them were not flying. Now there's a lot more availability. So your Thailands, your Bali are a lot more expensive now. They probably will go down sort of late January, probably good 10 grand. But you can find certain dates. So it's just about looking and being more flexible. Vic Falls, there's, so Livingston and Vic Falls, there's still availability there. I saw there was some in Mozambique. So there is places to go.
Fantastic.
So definitely, yeah.
All right, so we just got to, obviously the place to go is travel.co.za. That's why we do this with Window Seat. But
yes.
What about January? You mentioned January. You said prices will drop. So for those people who are looking at maybe taking a little bit longer or spending their money more cautiously, what happens in January? When does peak season end, and when do those bookings open up and the specials come along, prices drop?
Yeah. So I always think of those going back to school, and it's late. It's only sort of around the 19th. So a lot of the hotels do start around the 11th, bringing down prices. And if I look at the seasons for like Maldives, which is really popular, and all of those sort of come down from about the 19th as well. But you get a lot of varsity students only going back in Feb. So there's lots. I mean, if I look at your Thailand, your Bali, anywhere in the East, definitely the season comes down from mid-Jan to March.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, then let's look ahead to 2024, because we're already talking about January, which is only a few days away, by the way. Everybody thinks there's this big black hole somewhere between December and January. The time stops. It doesn't. No. Before you know it, we'll be back in the new year. So what is 2024 looking like travel-wise? We had Monet on Thursday last week, and he was telling us he's very, very upbeat about travel.
Yep.
As you just said, there are a lot more airlines that are in South Africa now, a lot of them that have picked up again after COVID. So now we can look ahead a little bit further and say 2024 is going to be a great place to go to, or a great time to go to.
Well, I think depending on what you're wanting to do, we are finding a lot of people wanting to go to the States. Disney is very popular for us. And again, that's a destination.
Florida Disney World?
Yes, okay. Disney World, yeah. So that is a destination you would plan ahead and normally sort of go your June, July school holidays, as well with Europe and Med. The Med is very, very popular. So your Turkeys, your Greece, your cruising, all in that area. So that again is planning ahead. So I don't think the exchange rate has deterred too many people. So you can still find affordable prices to those destinations. And then again, the East is always very popular for us. Mauritius, Maldives has done exceptionally well this year. So that is a destination that was always just too expensive and really is become more affordable now.
Okay.
So
that's good.
Your mainstream South Africa's, Vic Falls, Thailand, Mauritius, Maldives.
What are you doing for the holidays?
I am going down to the South Coast. Nothing too exciting over this time of the year.
That's a hidden little gem. Yes, I've got friends who live down there too, and they say it's the best because you have families on holiday and it's busy, but it's not as hectic as some other parts of the coast.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's very, very nice.
Yeah, I normally travel more out of season because
I'm sure. Well, for you, this is work time actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Angela, and thank you for popping by to see us. Angela is the general manager for sales development at Thompson's Holidays, and she's been everywhere. Listen to this: she's been to China, India, Singapore, Thailand, all of Europe and the USA, and to places like Laos, Vietnam, Burma. Not a lot of people I know have been to Burma, Myanmar.
Myanmar. I was going to say, like, it's still cool there.
Yes.
Did you go when it was Burma?
It was Burma, yes.
Wow. Okay. You didn't go and visit Aung San Suu Kyi in a prison cell.
No, I didn't.
Okay, but I mean, there's some amazing stuff to see.
It's beautiful. I love the East.
That whole area. So where is Angkor Wat? Is that in?
It's in Burma.
In Burma?
Yeah.
Love to see that.
Yeah.
Did you go?
I did.
I
did.
Okay. We're going to have a whole conversation about
Bucket list, yeah.
Your top 3 destinations you've been to?
I love South America. For me, going to Machu Picchu, Peru was a dream. I did a separate trip, go to Patagonia, which was really, really amazing. Oh, I don't know. I've been to so many places. It's hard to say, but I think skiing in Colorado was good.
Damn.
That's something you don't do
Aspen?
every day. It was Colorado's Breckenridge.
Oh.
Okay. So right next door to Aspen.
Okay.
I just looked at all them in Aspen.
Okay. Oh, is Aspen more, it's more upmarket?
Yes, a lot more upmarket, yes. But I was over Thanksgiving, so it was absolutely amazing. Everybody decorates their homes and it's just an experience on its own. And then I really do love the East. So for me, Vietnam, China, those are the sort of areas that I find very interesting.
I've got a friend who's about to go to Antarctica.
Oh, stunning.
But now, at this time because it's nicest now.
Yes.
Nicest, in inverted commas.
Like what? Like minus 10 degrees?
Yeah, and apparently it's quite a long time that you have to go because you go on one of those ships.
Yes.
And
no, they just landed a plane there, like a passenger plane. They just landed in Antarctica.
By the way, speaking of planes, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently Murrelling municipality is pushing for an international airport license for Hoedspruit to ease access to the Kruger National Park for its 1 million annual visitors. The move aims to reduce the need for connecting flights, particularly from Johannesburg and Cape Town, benefiting tourism and the local economy. Talks with national authorities are underway to make this upgrade a reality, with stakeholders hopeful for a positive impact across the tourism industry. That could be interesting too. So that's breaking news this morning.
So I just have to say, Angkor Wat's in Cambodia.
Oh, Cambodia, yeah, right.
And I was just seeing somebody asking where can they go if they can't afford to go overseas.
Yes.
So for me, there are a lot of local destinations. Whether you want to go staycation, I just saw the question. So whether you want to do a one night to spoil and not go too far, you can do weekends away as well. But the coast is available. And as I say, a bit of Cape Town. But yeah, sorry, just to get to back.
Elon says he does his holidays for February. I got a nice place for me and my lady friend and the dogs in Onrus. Okay, that's very nice. That's also in the Western Cape.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Angela. Have an awesome day and a great festive season. Happy Christmas and all of that stuff. And we'll be checking in with you in the new year. Perfect. All these exciting destinations. Thank you so much. There's Angela, and the window seat is with travel.co.za. If you go to travel.co.za, you could make your dream holiday a reality. And you can go and see all of these special deals, all of these opportunities that are available to you on that site. They've got the back end there for all the other sites. So they include, or don't think you're going to get a better deal by going to bookings or hotels or any of those, because they're all on there already.
Yeah.
It's the best way to do it. Okay, very good. And try to plan ahead, people. Let's not leave it to the last minute, right? Let's try to get our act together here. Put your plans in action for 2024 now. See, my brother is a planner. He's much better at this than I am. My brother planned a holiday with his kids and his wife. They paid the deposit and half the money, I think back in June.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's really well thought through. Saved himself some money because he paid most of it in advance. I think that's genius. Of course, not the same for me.
Like you just went to Cape Town
last minute. Yeah, exactly. What do people do that if they can't afford to go overseas? Asked Derek. Well, I think we kind of answered that question with Angela, but you can go find out more. Just go along and take a look. Look at the options. You know, I often will go onto George's site, Auto Trader, and just look at what cars are available and dream a little. I'll go, yeah, I dream that I had 2-3 million rand to buy that car. I do the same with holidays. Go on there, look at what the destinations are, see how much it costs you. You may just be persuaded to put down a deposit on next year. You never know. Exactly. It's an interesting thing to do. All right, very, very good. It's 7 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a whole lot more, including Democracy 101, because it is Tuesday and we are gearing up for an election next year. So for all those people who want to talk about politics, your dreams are going to come true. We're going to speak to, among others, Mbali Ntuli, who I just love what she's doing to try and get people to register to vote at the moment. And she's really putting a lot of work in. Bafana Modise, who we've had on before on the Burning Platform, and who himself is doing a lot to try and encourage young people, especially, to vote and to register to vote. So we've got plenty to get stuck into there. And we want to hear your thoughts. Let us know. And join in the conversation in the comments section and on YouTube and in the podcasts. All of those count.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Anyway, so this is the last episode of the year. So I thought maybe we could kick off the episode the same way we do every single year for the last 2 years now, by speaking by an armored vehicle. I don't know why that keeps happening, but last year, literally the last episode we did, we spoke about an armored vehicle.
You're kidding.
And right now, we had I think it was Armamax, or one of our dealerships we're talking about armored vehicles. So I thought maybe we can talk about the car that we're currently what the consumer is reviewing, which is the G400 Stronger Than Time, the G-Wagon. And I heard you're going to be driving it, actually.
Yes, so I'm going to be taking it home today.
Yeah.
Apparently, this car weighs about 3 tons.
Yeah, but just about 3 tons.
3 tons, and the armoring of the vehicle
is about 1 ton.
Yeah.
So the vehicle naturally is about 2 tons. This adds another 30% to the car's weight.
Yeah.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
And when you go into this process world, it becomes a way of life. There's no end point. You will continually be refining. You will continually be improving your processes in your actual business. A good place to start, do your shopping properly and understand what your end goal is. Shop properly, do your homework, understand what you want. What is the end game of looking at process in your organization? Is it around compliance management? Is it about automation? Is it about visibility of process? Is it around standardization? Have an end goal in mind and then go for it.
Thanks for listening to Unbundled, brought to you by Catalytic, a series that aims to demystify technology so that you can make smarter decisions for your business. Remember that you can listen to all of the episodes on the CliffCentral app or website. And for added convenience, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And remember, if you're looking for help with communications tools in your business, please make sure to visit catalytic.co.za.
.co.za. That's right, catalytic.co.za. And that is Yaku's show, which is also going on a little break, but he will be back in the new year. And also exciting news, I'm thrilled to say that Superbets are going to be back with CliffCentral.com, which is excellent because we love working with them. Means more sport with Ben for you on Fridays and more terrible recaps with Bakh'abantu and Ryan.
Everyone else is there.
And Leanne. But the most important thing you get out of it is Fridays with Ben, which is very good news. And of course, if you haven't signed up because they're supporting us for another year, then you must support them, please.
Yeah.
I know it's not Fridays or Mondays now, but go along and sign up with Superbets today. They've got great deals. And then you can, who knows, you could win a couple of really good bets and make some money over the holidays. Come back richer than the rest of us in January. That would be nice. Okay, we were talking about Ryan falling just now, which if Simpiwe was here, she'd be laughing out loud about because Simpiwe loves nothing more than when people fall. And so far, Jane has fallen a couple of times and Ryan has fallen once. But the rest of us luckily have not. It's interesting. He brought up a movie. Leo DiCaprio movie?
No. Justin Timberlake. In Time.
In Time, right. Where he moves a little bit too fast. And the woman picks up, you're not from here. You move too fast. What made me interested in that comment and what made me think of people who move fast or people who move slow is that I don't think, because Ryan was saying, well, rich people who have a lot of time, they move slower.
Yeah.
Not true. I don't think that's true. Not always. I know lots of very, very go-getter, driver, fast-thinking, fast-moving, get shit done people who are tremendously successful. They're not in a hurry because they are running on someone else's time. They're in a hurry because they're trying to move everyone else along.
Yeah, it's like this thing I once learned that if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person because you know they'll get to it instead of someone who has something on their plate who procrastinate, have their morning cup. So
apparently, again, because he's the guy everyone refers to these days, apparently when Elon Musk has a job for one of his staff to do, and he says, have you done this? Like, a few hours later, and they haven't done it yet. He says, fine, I'll do it. And then he does it. And then he gets rid of them like a week later.
That's how stuff should work.
And that's moving fast, right? Because if someone's going to take forever to do something, you're eventually just going to lose patience with them.
Yeah.
I have nothing good to say about people in shops or now at Christmas time, even on the roads. You could see people are driving slowly. They're not really sure where they're going. Maybe they, if I get to the office 5 minutes late, it's not going to matter. if I get to the shops 10 minutes late, it's not going to matter. If I take longer, they push their trolley along at 0.005 kilometers an hour. I don't get it. Yesterday, I had to go and just get some groceries. People are, even the staff in the shops are like, taking their time. Everything's slow. They move one little thing at a time. They put this here. They go and sit down. They have a little break. They talk to each other. Nobody's in a hurry at this point. And I know that it is a December thing, which is fine. I'm not going to be a pain in the ass at this time of year. You could go as slow as you want.
No, I will be a pain in the ass on your behalf, Gareth. I want stuff to work fast. I want stuff to work well. And that's all I want. I want to go into the shop. I don't want you to take your time looking for the plastic. Just give it to me.
Yeah. There's just, you were talking about wrapping earlier. I'm just thinking about all the unnecessary rubbish we generate at this time of year too.
We do.
The packaging around food, the wrapping around presents, all of that stuff. And it fills those black rubbish bags, and then God knows where it goes, right?
Yeah.
All right, so here's an interesting thing to look at. Business Leadership South Africa's CEO, Busisiwe Mavuso, who was only actually appointed this year, I think, highlighted both progress and setbacks in South Africa. So what do you think fits into the progress category in South Africa? Before we get to Democracy 101.
Well, in South Africa, when I did economics and macroeconomics, we were told that we're in a stagnant economy. So I'm very curious what fits in progress in South Africa.
Well, guess what? She doesn't really go into progress. She goes into problems. So delays in renewable energy programs, logistical crises at ports, the national health insurance, and damage to the health sector. And basically, guess what gets the only positive in her report? Is private business filling in the gaps.
Yes.
Like they have with the ports and a whole bunch of other things. We have such a resilient, stop-at-nothing private sector, right? And thanks to them, the viable health system that we have, she's commended the new Eskom CEO's appointment. Don't know about whether let's wait and see how they do first.
Before we give out handshakes.
Unbelievable. So I'm not surprised, but there we go.
Speaking
Business
about
Leadership
delays,
South Africa.
I don't know if you saw this. Speaking about delays, right? So like with public system and transport system back up and running, at PRASA just launched the Shosholoza mail train, right? 35 hours to go to Cape Town on the train.
That seems like a long ass time.
That's a day and some.
Yeah. No, that seems like a waste.
18 hours to go to Durban.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
That 18 hours is at least 10 hours more than even a slow driver who stops everywhere along the way for everything.
It's 8 hours more than a bus.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so you've met him before because he's been on the Burning platform, but I want to introduce to you Bafana Modise, who's been on with us a couple of times. Bafana's actually going to be doing some new shows with us in the new year, and we've got lots of exciting things to talk to him about. So first of all, welcome, Bafana. Nice to see you.
Oh, thanks, Gareth. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah, it was very, very good. So let's just quickly talk about Democracy 101, which is the show we're doing now. It's powered by the Podcast Party. And many people be asking, what the hell is the Podcast Party? Is it a party? Like as in drinks and music and fun and people having a good time of the festive season? Or is it a political party? Like we're actually registering as a political party in the election? Well,
with the express reason to party.
Correct. Yeah. So actually, I mean, it's meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek, but next year, of course, we celebrate 30 years of democracy, which is a big deal. It's a general election. So we did some research and we did an online survey. We did 4 focus groups here in studio. We recorded these as podcasts and as YouTube videos, and we've decided to call it VVIP, Voter Voices in Politics.
Yeah.
And you can find them on CliffCentral.com or on YouTube if you haven't watched them already. It's interesting because it will give you insights into what young people are thinking about next year. Everybody goes, yeah, it's such a problem. Young people are not registered to vote. Why are young people so disenchanted with the political process?
When you get to the polls, you don't even know. But I think that's the essence of this, to go out to young people, to get their ideas. Why are you not voting? Or if you are voting, what inspires you? But we have seen for a couple of more years that there's been a decline in voter participation and going into the streets to the people, not just speaking to politicians or influencers, but to the real guy selling on the streets, the taxi driver, the guy at the mall, let's check us a shop, right? To say, why are you not active? And what would you do different if you are given the opportunity to be maybe a president or to be a mayor or whatever? So we want to make it more nation-oriented, nation-building orientated,
right,
towards patriotism, towards let's get these young people activated.
Let's make South Africa great again.
I didn't want to say like that.
All right.
You sound like Trump there for one.
So I'll get into some of the interesting results from our I think these were fascinating focus groups because, again, if we just listen, then we'll hear what young people actually are saying rather than trying to work it out without even asking them. They'll tell you if you ask them.
Yes.
And this is part of what we're doing with VVIP. So, all right, so there's the podcast party. And in that umbrella, we're going to have shows like this one, Democracy 101. We're going to be doing VVIP with you and with a whole lot of other guys, young people in South Africa who are putting this stuff together. But what's interesting about what you're going to be doing is you'll be going around the country with Mbali Ntuli and what she's already doing with these young guys who we did the focus groups with. So let's look at some of the results, and I want to hear your comments on these, Bafana. Approximately a third of the people we asked are planning to vote next year, only 1/3. A third are undecided and a third are not voting, which is much lower than that online survey.
I would say I beg to differ with the fact that most people now, they want to go vote more than ever. The current issues in the country, people are starting to say, I need to make a difference. I need to be part of the system somehow. If you can look at how many political parties are mushrooming out of anywhere, if you can look at how churches even themselves are trying to unite and have some political voice, there is that appetite for politics. In terms of who to vote for, that would be the problem. But then I feel like maybe the survey might be wrong on the idea that people are not as appetized to vote. It's just an issue of how do you teach someone of their responsibility as a citizen.
And it's not just voting. There's a whole lot more that goes into it too. So we can look at some of these things later. But I want to bring in Mbali at this point because she's a well-known name in South Africa. She's the founder and CEO of something called the Groundwork Collective, which is a community development initiative that focuses, among other things, on food security, access to water. But here today, we're going to talk civic education and a little bit of social entrepreneurship. She's, of course, a former politician. She was 15 years as a councillor. And I mean, she's so young. I can't believe you were a councillor for 15 years.
15 years as a politician. 10 of those years at MPL.
Still 15 years as a politician. And look, you've survived and you don't have wrinkles and you look fresh. It's fantastic. All right. So let's just talk about what you've done before, because people are going to go, oh, I know that name. 15 years as a councillor and MPL, serving the province of KwaZulu-Natal, political leader, public speaker, activist. You're also the youngest person to contest for the leadership of South Africa's official opposition party in 2020. And now you're doing this Groundwork Collective stuff, which, among other things, is encouraging young people to vote. That's the whole topic of discussion this morning. How's that going, Mbali?
It's going incredibly well. So we actually don't just encourage people to vote because that doesn't complete the loop. We know that young people in particular are not voting, and that's a behavior. So if you want to change a behavior, you have to do numerous things to be able to change it. So we go out, we register young people. We then also give them civic education, because we've actually found that is the link of what's missing with South Africans being able to fully utilize their democracy, is that they just believe that every 5 years you go out and you vote and things are going to magically happen, when actually we have such a participatory democracy. And if you want it to work, it's what you do in between. But nobody knows what they're supposed to do in between. So we make sure that we fill that gap in to tell people how their government work, how electoral processes work. What are these ward committees? What are these things that you should be knowing about as a citizen to be a fully active citizen? And then we also get these young people to protect the election. So next year, we'll also be getting them to become observers on the day of elections, because we think that that's also a really cool way to get people to see and physically take part in their democracy. So it's been going great. We've done some wonderful pilots. We are at every kind of place where young people are. We congregate at universities, institutions of higher learning, taxi ranks, wherever there are young people, we go out and we meet them there. And then, of course, we've also just launched a digital portal, which has the back-end API with the IEC, so people can go and physically register on our site. And of course, then they get to win really cool prizes. At the moment, it's KFC vouchers, but there's all kinds of cool stuff that we allow them to win. And again, it's just one of the ways that we try to incentivize young people to get excited about their democracy.
All right, so let's just focus on this idea that registration is a part of it. And the nice thing that you do is you also just allow them to scan a QR code, and it takes you straight through to the website where you make sure that you're registered. And you can do it in a flash. I mean, it's really very easy to do. The events that you're doing sound like a great excuse for people to also just get together and start talking about this stuff. Have you had any resistance at all? Is there anyone who doesn't like the idea that you're coming into communities, that you're setting yourself up, that you're getting people? Is there anybody who's against this in South Africa? Because we hear that, young people aren't interested in registering, and we hear that the political parties all want them to. We hear that everybody's behind this. But are there South Africans who don't want registrations?
So I think in general, of course, most people are behind registration. I think that, it's a fallacy to say that young people don't care about their democracy. They absolutely care, but they are put off by politicians, that's for sure. And studies show that they don't like the behavior of politicians, and then they feel that they are ineffective. But for us, we haven't received any resistance from communities. In fact, a number of times, some political entities have tried to hijack our events. But we do always have security there, so that's great. And I don't mean hijack in a dramatic sense. I think they just want to be a part of what's happening. But I mean, of course, political parties themselves aren't in the business of registering people that aren't going to vote for them. So they have the approach of only registering people that they are sure will turn out for them. So we are non-partisan. We register people indiscriminately across the board. And that does make some political parties a little bit nervous, because then what it means, which is kind of the point of why we're doing it, is that there's going to be all these people that are registered, that they don't have any control over, which means that they're actually going to have to engage these people and see what they want, or risk having them vote for other people. And that's exactly the point. We want to make it a numbers game so South Africans can realize that there are more of us than there are of politicians, and we should be calling the shots. And so the only way one of the first ways to do that is to be on that voters roll, so that political parties get nervous.
Let me ask you and Bafana and Bakh'abantu here quickly, because we researched with some of the young people that we had in studio. We recorded podcasts with them and basically did these focus groups just to ask young people what their interest or disinterest in politics is and where it comes from. So a lot of them say that they believe government has lost to corruption. 1 in 4 people say that they're willing to re-elect them because they don't have faith in the other parties. In other words, that the opposition may even be worse than the ANC. And all participants feel as if the youth are neglected. Now, that last one isn't surprising to me, because everybody always feels they're neglected by government, because frankly, we are. But do you have any comments on that first part, that a quarter of people are willing to re-elect the ANC because they don't like opposition parties? Mbali, you can go first.
Yes, and I mean, that's not the only study that's shown that. In fact, the Afrobarometer put out a survey earlier this year, and it also said that the distrust in opposition parties was so high amongst not just young people, amongst general citizens, that opposition parties are at the very bottom in terms of institutions that people trust, which then gives them the option of either voting for what we already have or staying at home. And this is why we have this problem. And then the other stats also, I think, check out of the work that we've done. And then interestingly, and this is where people, I think, are not focusing, is that 76% of respondents in the Afrobarometer study also said that they would be willing to give up elections and democracy if there was a leader or a party that could promise them jobs and security. And that is incredibly worrying for a country that has such a young democracy. But it also shows you just how precious and on the precipice we are if we don't kind of get busy with trying to rectify the situation we find ourselves.
I wouldn't mind just for a moment hovering over that Afrobarometer study, because that's really, really interesting stuff. In fact, you were the one who showed it to me, Mbali. And I want to put it on screen so people can see who Who do you think South Africans trust the most, and who do you think we trust the least? I mean, this is fascinating stuff, because you would imagine that certain groups would come out looking good, other groups would come out looking bad, but it's not who you think it is. So I'm going to put it up on screen, and then I want Mbali to just quickly take us through some of it, because I found these results fascinating, and it's not as cut and dried as we think it is. You mentioned the opposition parties, how actually a lot of people find them quite untrustworthy. Also, media organizations come in for quite a lot of crit. Not everybody thinks that they are particularly good at delivering the truth or saying what's really happening, right? So you want to just let's look at the people who are the worst first. Okay, I'm going to put this up on screen quickly. And then you can comment on this, and feel free to jump in, Bafana, and feel free to jump in, Bakh'abantu, wherever you like as well here. So here it is. This is the Afrobarometer research that Mbali was talking about. Who do South Africans trust, especially when it comes to talking about politics and elections? So at the bottom are opposition parties, right at the bottom. Then next up are local councils, police, provincial premier. Ruling party is 27%, and that compares opposition party 24%. So not that much daylight between the two of them, actually. Parliament only at 28%. And then you get in the middle traditional leaders, the Electoral Commission, and the president. The president, 38% of people believe the president is trustworthy. Then you've got South African Revenue Services, SARS, then the Public Protector, religious leaders, courts of law, and the army doing very well at 49%. The Department of Health at 56%, government broadcasters 61%, and then at the top, independent broadcasters 63%. What do we make of that?
Sure.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. And I think, for me, what it says is, one, certainly when it comes to the top two, we have a lot of work to do with the information that we're giving out to people. But people trust people that seem authentic and not beholden to anyone. So that's great to see that we still have at least that muscle memory of not just believing anything that we're told. I'm always surprised that the army is so high, considering that they don't directly affect the average citizen's life on a daily basis. But maybe
they're
that's
not very visible.
Yeah, not very much visible.
And when they are, they're usually there in support in the background, So, and I don't know how much of an army we still have, to be perfectly honest.
But like the concept of an army is great, right? You think you're protected from external threats. We don't have external threats. We don't have wars. So I guess the army is doing a good job. Like, just if you don't think about it.
The idea of an army. You feel more protected. You feel like, nah, here we have leadership.
Yeah, we are led.
Bafana, what do you think of the fact that opposition parties have such low levels of trust?
I think the best time in our history of opposition parties was when the times of the DA under Musi Maimane and the likes of Mbali's, and there was those row in parliament against Zuma. But with the recent leader, president, I haven't seen much opposition. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the EFF just makes noise and keeps quiet after a long time, and people don't trust the EFF as that voice for the general public, but for the few in society. But in terms of other political parties, yes, they are there, they speak in parliament, but they haven't seen much action, much political headlines talking about we want that. So you would say that Cyril somehow has managed to kind of neutralize all opposition against him, and he's having a free flow. Looking at what is happening in the country right now with load shedding, with the currency issue and all of these things, you would expect that there will be a march on the streets of Safe SA or whatever they did a couple of years ago, but you don't see that. So I feel like the opposite.
Why are you laughing, Mbali?
So I don't feel that. I think the opposition was only alive under Zuma. Then that was the time it was hot. Bakh'abantu.
So I have an opinion on this, right? So back to the way this was originally sparked, right?
Sure.
Rather the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? This is why people feel like they should vote for the ANC instead, or just not vote at all. But that's not how it works. You don't have to choose one devil. This is how this is why civics matters. We can choose a coalition. We can choose multiple people that represents different interests that can speak together to a common goal.
True.
Not one person, but we have become beaten with this bat that like only one party can rule.
I think also is that thing of South Africans, most of them, I will speak for most our people, black people, they have this loyalty to the ANC, right? And they feel like if it's not the ANC, then who would it be?
Then this is the second part
because
of
that would be the fear of change. Because I think there's this fear of change to say we might be jumping to this one, to the worse one. But also what I've seen throughout the years is how most political parties have managed to grow, like your Action SA, they are growing. There is appetite now for alternative. It's just that we haven't really figured out which is the alternative.
Yes, so this is where my second point now comes in with Bafana, is that there is no alternative in South Africa. You speak to loyalty that we have for the ANC. I would say it's Stockholm syndrome. We have become so trapped by our captors that we have, like, we will do whatever they want us to do at this point because it can't get any better than this. They freed us from the horrendous, apartheid regime. But that's not an entire thing. And I disagree with your sentiment that parties are growing. Parties are not growing. They're converting ANC votes. So there is an appetite of alternatives, but these parties are not growing. They're just converting voters that are already in the voters roll. So what Mbali is doing of making new voters and teaching people why they should participate in their system, that's key. Then moving to Cyril being really great, right? No, this is no. Just because your team is winning, right? This goes back to South Africa in general. Like when you watch the derby, they were all filled there, like at FNB Stadium. No, just because this team is winning 1-0. Pirates are not a great team, guys. It just beats Kaizer Chiefs all the time. Doesn't make it a great team. Just means Kaizer Chiefs sucks.
But not all the time. Order, not all the time.
Can I just say two quick things just about this? So on the one hand, South Africans are probably one of the toughest groupings of people to engage politically. And let's just take away, the political parties. But because we are a nation of people that we don't like what we currently have, but at the same time, anytime somebody puts up their hand to say, okay, I think I'm prepared to lead, I'd like a chance, we are very quick to say, well, who are you? Who do you think you are? Why do you think you should be able to lead? We have too many parties. We shouldn't be having more parties. And we get stuck in this constant conversation of inertia around who's trying to be a politician, as opposed to thinking about how we are making sure that politicians, whoever they might be, think about us. So we have to reframe the way that we think, I think, as South Africans, about our role and about politicians and political parties, because we're going to keep getting stuck, to your point, in this inertia of, well, then what can we do? What can we say? We're just going to have to accept load shedding. But we're also just such a notorious bunch that doesn't, we only want things at a very specific time, at a very specific way, with a very specific leader. And I think it's because of the exceptionalism of having Nelson Mandela and the liberation movement and how it all started, that we stuck very much on thinking that we're going to recreate that, instead of understanding that, one, we have to work for it, and two, anyone that's going to come out is never going to have all of those perfect traits. We have to also train them into it. But we're very quick to just want something that's already tailor-made and ready. And this is, of course, why everyone also thinks that, they can buy the electorate and quickly get in and take a shot. And they probably can, because we're also very easily to move nation sometimes by giving people chances. So you only need 45,000 seats to get into parliament. Once you're there, you can earn the same amount of money as an opposition leader. You'll get your salary on top of that, and you'll get political party funding from the IEC. So being a politician is quite lucrative in this country if you can get it, and you can. And what irritates me is that the average South African doesn't know that they could probably just do it better than political parties. So one of the other things I'd love to do, and I think we must do, start localizing elections and teaching people how to campaign where they are. There's no reason why either of you can't be somebody who stands. I mean, councillors are part-time, the majority of them, part-time in your council, and actually do things to work. But if we're going to be expecting that other people are going to do it, we're always going to get the bottom of the barrel of the people that we see representing us.
Right.
No, and I think I like that, Mbali, to say you've taken a journey to educate people. It's sad when people vote based on Mandela back in history and are ignoring what is happening today. There are still people who are voting because they were given RDP. Some are even screaming the 350s to say, I'm getting 350 from the ANC, so I'm going to vote ANC. But they don't understand their responsibility. They don't understand the power that they hold. And also for the past 5 years, we have seen what is happening. We can't be we got to use the same tactic over and over again. Somebody said it must be insanity that you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Yeah.
I want to ask you all something else. Is that when we did this focus group, the majority of the people believe that the old people are the only reason that the ANC is still in power. And this has come up a couple of times. It's like, what do we do about the older people who are just voting on loyalty? And I mean, is that their prerogative and they're entitled to do it? Or do we have to sit with our elders and discuss with them, hey, listen, this country is not doing very well at the moment. And as a young person who wants to make the most of our lives, there isn't a lot of opportunity for us here, and you have to help me get there. Or is that just a lost cause?
I mean, I think it is the old people, Gareth, but also again, I can tell you that it is the rebranding of the ANC every 5 years, right? So, for example, Cyril. Most people still believe that Cyril was the Mandela we had been waiting for, right?
Are you joking?
Ramaphoria, as they call it.
To
my men and all of that. People
they fell for that?
People fell for that. The branding was so good.
We're still praying for Cyril, Gareth.
Yeah. and some people actually believe that this guy would save South Africa. He's better than Zuma. He's a businessman. He understands the economy. I remember he spoke about 6 million jobs. Like, oh, he didn't understand jobs, 6 million jobs. The guy went to say 1 million houses in Alex. People were like, oh, this is the guy for us.
He did turn on a tap the other day in KwaZulu-Natal, right? I think he did.
Yes, and my former constituency for a water scheme that should have been there like 6 years prior to that.
Yeah, the same way he filled up a pothole on a gravel road. But he's our president. But what I'm saying is that people still have this idea that the ANC could be better because they are so scared of being led by white folks. And also remember, there's a narrative now that whoever doesn't sound revolutionary or like they're from the jungle in the Mkonto, it's either they are bought by whites, they are puppets, they are white monopoly capital. That narrative.
I think that South Africans have been ready to take our country forward more than politicians have allowed. The reason in 2016 that we saw coalition parties coming was because people strategically were voting in different political parties in different places. And that's why you ended up having, I think, over 81 municipalities in the hands of other political parties. And in KZN, certainly there's been a lot of power sharing and power changing. What they don't have is the mechanisms about what they do after that. And that's where we get stuck, because if somebody's a crappy ward councillor, what do you do? Unless you can wait for their political party to recall them or for them to die, a citizen feels as though they're stuck with that person or stuck with that particular political party. And they don't know that there are things that they can do even before we get to that situation. So we have
to wait for them to die.
Until the house calls them.
In my particular area, we have a by-election on tomorrow. And we're voting again because the previous councillor killed the previous councillor to get.
Oh my God!
You're in Natal. No?
And now we actually don't even feel the difference of whether we have one or not, because we just do things on our own. We take back our rights from municipalities and we employ our own people to do all these kinds of things. And yes, it creates a parallel state, but things work. And it's part of our legislation, it's part of our Property Act from 2004 and part of the Municipal Revenue Act, as well as part of the bylaws. And these are the things that people don't know that they can do without having to wait for a political party. But Gareth, just to your point about what you were saying, it is old people, sure, but also the second biggest group that isn't voting is 42 to 59. So even old people are done. There was a by-election in Butterworth where 13 people showed up.
13?
13. And there's another one, I think it's just about a year and a half ago, where 26 people showed up for Ward 26 in Etzimini. So there's heartfulness across the board, across age groups. And what we need older people to do is actually to have these conversations with younger people, because we assume that these conversations are happening in their home. They are not. Since 1994, that conversation has gone down. I think people assume that they know what their grandparents vote for and that their grandparents know what they vote for. I would push back and say that we're not even having enough of these conversations.
Well, in some ways, this is encouraging. I mean, if 13 people pitched up in Butterworth for a by-election,
and that's where I'm from,
that means, well, you should be embarrassed that you weren't there. I mean, this also means, Mbali, that you can have an outsized impact by pitching up, by making your voice heard. That should be encouraging for people. In the land where everybody else stays at home and keeps quiet, you can be the one who goes out and makes it happen.
Okay. What I feel, Gareth, right, is that once you have elected someone, people just, they voted, there's a new party.
That's where they stop.
That's when they stop. And the councillor can absolutely do nothing. When you go to the villages, into the rural areas, there's a councillor that probably doesn't even live in the village anymore. He has hired a house in town. He comes to the village once in a while to check them out, goes to council.
In a G-Wagon.
My brother. The man will be flexing on his own people. So you still have that problem whereby people are not necessarily patriotic or they're not necessarily well educated on how do we get rid of politicians who are not doing their job.
Bafana, let's say we have Mbali's hugely successful.
Yes.
And people are just absolutely thrilled to be a part of what the Groundwork Collective are doing. And let's say she has success in helping them start up their own businesses, food security, because I know you're helping people do that too, Mbali. But let's say all of that's a runaway success. And let's say that the VVIP that you're launching now with us, this Voters' Voices in Politics, also hugely successful. We get young people there in their droves and they vote, and we have an unbelievably complex coalition government, but they're all holding each other to account, and it's exciting. It's a whole new era in South Africa. What do they have to do after the election? What happens then? Because you're saying there's more to be done, but what more? What do people need to do? Do they need to stand in their local ward and make themselves available for election? Do they need to join a political party as a member and be put on a party list? Or do they just have to do things around the community, which many people are already doing?
I think the first thing is if you are active in your ward, then you'll be able to hold your leader accountable. But if you're not active in your ward, if you're not part of...
What does that mean? Going to outside their house when the water and electricity is off,
for an example,
with a shambok? I mean, what do you want us to do?
It starts there, Gareth.
It starts there, Gareth. You being brought up, with a CPF and getting rid of nyaupes, and tomorrow morning is some guy stealing from somebody's house and you are there. And next thing you are dealing with the gardening in the community, you are picking up trash, you are active in the community, and the councillor himself becomes it needs to play a role with it. But I think once you are active to say why there is no water here, but there was a budget that was taken out, things like that, people start to wake up to the reality. But again, if you can ask anyone, what is the budget they're housing for Houghton or for Johannesburg? What is the budget for water? Who is getting what tender to where? No, people don't even know about these things. So as the more we get people to be active,
to participate
in their communities,
then
they will hold their leaders accountable. Then they will keep them running.
Ask the same question then, because Mbali, I know, has got it prepared. She's thought these things through. She's got an answer as well. You don't want us to pitch up at the ward councillor's house with a shambok. You've got a better plan.
You come there with a patrol.
And let me work backwards so people can understand why it is that they need to play the role they're in. If we're complaining about Eskom and load shedding, it is incredibly overwhelming to say that one person in your particular neighborhood is going to change some macroeconomic policy that's been taken at a national level about what happens with energy regeneration or whatever. You don't want to overwhelm people by saying, we're trying to do this so we can solve big problems. People won't believe you because they know that they don't have that kind of power. And secondly, it's too theoretical for them in their minds how they would think about that. So you need to make it very, very close to where they are so they have a sense that they can actually do something there. And you say to them, the first thing you should do is you should go and actually sit on your ward committee. Know what's actually happening right outside your road. So you can stand for election or you can go for the meetings. You should know when your council meetings are. And if you don't know, you can demand that your councillor actually lets you know, or you can look at the municipal website so that you know what's actually happening. And any South African can go to any meeting of any legislature or legislative sitting in this country as long as they bring their ID. That goes for council, parliament, and legislative systems. That is your right as a South African to know what's happening in a house that is for all of us. You should also be getting involved in things like understanding the IDP process. You can't complain about the fact that there's a burst water pipe outside of your house if you didn't actually say to the councillor when the process was happening, you need to allocate money because it's going to be, or there's a burst pipe or there's been a burst pipe or whatever the case is that is. These things by law have to happen every single time and every single year that they're called, and you as a citizen get to go and speak to them. That's the first kind of suite of things that people should understand, and they should understand that that is their right. Because then what you can do is say, okay, now I sit at the CPF, I get to make decisions about what's happening in policing in my neighborhood. I can say and help the police direct their resources to places where we as a community think that they should be going. Similarly for SGBs and schools, again, something that actually calls for parents and people in the area to be able to participate in the education, policies that happen with their kids. All of these things start at a ground level. All of them are participatory. When people understand that they can do that, they quickly then understand the mechanisms of how they must actually get themselves organized amongst themselves. And once you have that and you have people starting to feel and see the face of, hey, we have a UIP, which is an urban improvement precinct in our area. We can get our verges cut, or, I don't know, take away indigenous, invasive plants, or whatever issues that are important in that particular neighborhood. Then you actually start to see people believing that they can have a change. And when they believe that they can have a change, then they start demanding more from the councillor. The councillor, of course, is then going to have to put pressure on their political party in the city to make sure that the things that they are being asked for are actually done. Right. And the people in the city are going to make sure that they're telling the MPs and the MPLs that, hey, we've got a lot of pressure from these particular neighborhoods. This is one of the things that they want. We need a participation. And that's how you escalate the chain upwards. So you don't have to think that you have to do something at the very top. You can do things right at the very bottom. And so when we do the civics training, we give people these practicals. I mean, there's like 1,000 other things that I can mention. I don't want to take up too much time, but there are many practical steps that people can take to actually sit on these things, do these things. You can go to the speaker at the
All right. So let me ask all of you quickly, because there's a point that Congo Chris makes. He says some of us have to go to work and do our actual jobs. It is the politicians' jobs to do this stuff. I know that when someone isn't doing their job, we all have to pitch in and help. But it is, he says, they must do their job. It's their job. We have every right to complain when they don't do their job. This is gaslighting.
Like, he's speaking to this policing thing. Why should we be a parent in the room telling them, no, like, don't eat that, don't take that. You should know, because we elected you for the specific role.
But they don't know.
But the problem is this, Bakh'abantu. I'm Bafana in Soweto. I have never been to any government institution or learn anything about governance. I was a member of the party. Now I've been made a councillor and MMC. I have a political office, and what we have also what we call the professional staff in municipalities. These guys, they don't just go there to show up with blue lights, or they drive around town going to political events. Even this IDP that Mbali speaks about, it's a process. But you know what I hate is that it becomes just a formality. They get their people that they know within that side and say, we have passed the process.
What is the minimum?
Because we allow it. And to Chris's point, this is exactly the compact that we have to decide as South Africans. Do we want to think that politicians can make the decisions on our behalf, or do we want to tell them how they should be spending our taxes? Because our constitution says they have to come ask us what it is that we want. That's why we need to take these things and say to them, this is what we want to plan in police, and this is what we want to plan. And in terms of the meetings, I mean, then you can also have a negotiation about when there's a hold. And there also are regulations around when those should be and how many people should be able to attend and how long the notice and all of those things should be. But the average African doesn't even know that. So they can't say that they hate the way politicians behave when they have a mechanism to change it, and then they also don't want to use that mechanism. We have to decide what kind of citizens we want to be. And I can tell you now that the democracies that thrive the most in the world are the ones that have the most active citizens. It's not the ones that have the best economic policies or the ones that seem to be, the best at getting things done. Those things only happen because they have citizens that force them to be able to do those things.
Right.
And I like that example because, like, just to bring it closer back to home, it's like what you said about SGBs. Schools that thrive are...
I've lost hearing.
To what Bafana was saying about these processes are being abused, a friend of mine always brings up a point, is like he doesn't understand why he should be led or should like let's say he always makes the example of Fikile Mbalula, not to go after someone, but like he says he's not good at anything. He's a zoologist who has his master's degree. He's like, why should this person tell me up and dictate policy to me when he cannot do anything else besides talk?
And that is the reality, Bakh'abantu, to say, and certainly when you go for political party office, you find that people don't care about your qualifications. They care about your popularity more, right? It's more about how popular you are and how eloquent and funny you speak.
That's politics all over the world.
But then the problem is that
it is a popularity contest.
But you have to be a mayor at some point. You need to know what is a budget. You need to know how to run your stuff. You didn't even know how to use Microsoft Office. So
I was going to say in the best world, but I think that we also can't have a conversation about what rationalities people use to vote, because you're never going to convince every single person about what it is. They could vote for you based on your socks. What we don't need to do is and analyzing why people vote the way they do. What we need to do is say, when those people, whoever they are, buffoons or not, are voted in, what can we do to make sure that they work or that we fire them? Because if you try to think that you're going to be able to change how people rationalize how they vote, they'll be here forever because everyone votes on all kinds of wacky reasons.
I mean, America's going to decide between a man who's lost his mind and a man who's only in his own mind the whole time. So we don't know which one. I mean, how can you rationalize any of that stuff? You're so right, Mbali. We get stuck on these things and we try to solve problems that are unsolvable when there are actually things we can start solving.
No, but I think at some point it has to be regulated, guys. I think
you mean qualify the politicians?
Yeah, how to qualify to run for political office? I just don't think
some of the people in politics,
anyone can just go wake up in the morning.
Some of the people in politics have degrees in public administration, but they're still terrible people. I'm with Mbali here. You can't actually do anything there.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to speak to this. Like, also, we did try that. We did say, "Oh, can you bring some formal results?" And then Nokolo Kivit came with 2 master's degree where she doesn't have an undergrad.
and there've been politicians who've all been found out for lying about their qualifications. Anyway, listen, that's not going to save us. It's credentialism, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you get the best people in. I mean, it's more important to my mind that people like you guys, Mbali, Bafana, you guys are all making a difference in civil society where you actually have more power. You have more power to operate. You don't have to comply with the red tape and the rules of party politics and internal politics and provincial or national government. Those people's hands, I'm not making excuses for them, believe me, but their hands are often tied. And there's so much that they can't do that you can and that we can as ordinary citizens. Carl says, I'm on the SGB at my daughter's school. That's the governing body. It's run like a private school. It's very difficult to find differences between it and a private school. And you see, because you're involved, you can say that to us. Yes. And because you're involved, your daughter will be getting a better education. But if you abdicate responsibility, and I know you want to jump in on this, Bakh'abantu, but the minute you let someone else decide the important things in your life, your health, your school, your kids' education, your own job security, the minute you farm that out and get someone else to be your agent in that world, you're going to get much worse results almost every time. So I'm sorry about the people like Chris in the comments who are saying, this isn't my job. I know, Chris, I feel your pain, but actually, if we don't all pitch in, it's going to become your problem, whether it's your job or not.
And it does speak to what Mbali was saying about we do need to participate a lot in this country, and giving people those tools to participate is the biggest step. It's not just voting. It's not just making that one decision. It's continuously making that decision.
A very important question from Sanele, who's very, very interested in politics. Guys, is Bafana Tim Modise's son or nephew? The resemblance is as striking visually as it is vocally. Any relation?
No relation. We share the same surname, but no, I don't know the guy.
And Modise is obviously...
the voice, actually, now that they mentioned...
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Maybe I can just claim to be Tim Modise 2.0. But you're right, Gareth, in the idea that we need to be... I think our success, me and Mbali on the streets, it's what also will turn as a result, we will start to see most people being vocal about the legalities around what must be done, the laws, the voter education is very important. I just hate the fact that when people are about to vote, there's a truck of alcohol and some beer and some couple of celebrities coming to dance. I don't know what happened to Chomi. Chomi used to be the one who would do the things, and people will just go and vote. But I feel like now we need to vote based on merits. Who needs to be there? What can he deliver? And how can you hold him accountable? So I think as you go onto the streets, me and Mbali will be able to get our people to be conscientized, to say it's more than just that food parcel. It's 5 years after that food parcel. Yes. This is your life.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of the fact that these political parties will do whatever it takes in the lead up to the election and then they disappear? I mean, they will literally bribe someone with a T-shirt to vote for them, and then they're gone.
I mean, have you seen Joburg lately? Every pothole has been filled up. There's some fixing happening everywhere. There's some work being done.
I see this,
and that doesn't happen in the past 4 years.
Is that Al Jama?
That's commando right there. Hard work.
Right.
So I see that it is a norm of the party towards a year before the election. There is this big project coming up. There is roads being fixed. There is whatever being built. But then after the election, they disappear. And it's not only just the ruling party, even all other parties. Once they're in parliament, they are driving around nice cars, living in parliamentary village. They only talk about our problems as the poor of the poor in Soweto. But they don't even, they don't come to us. They don't even understand who we are.
So let's say that there are people listening right now, Mbali, who are hugely inspired by what you guys have said, that want to help you. What can they do to help Groundwork Collective and Bafana afterwards? What can they do to help you with VVIP? Where can people get involved?
Lovely.
Thanks. So obviously people can go onto our website or our social media, but the things that we really need help with is spreading the message. So like we said, we've made things very easy with our QR codes and our links to get young people registered. Stats SA says that on average, everyone knows 2.5 people that are not registered. So people can just do something as simple as start sharing that on their WhatsApp groups, share it with their nieces and nephews. If you have a small business, share it with your employees. Maybe they have kids or maybe they themselves are not registered. In fact, do a survey to see how many of your employees are actually registered, because you want to know that people that are working for you also have the idea that they are part of actually solving the problems that we have in this country. So that's the one thing, is to really spread awareness and to really put this out there everywhere so we can reach as many people. I mean, we're speaking to schools because we're also developing programs to get into civic educations and curriculum in schools and universities. And we're also going to many corporates. But the other thing is also volunteer on election day. Come and join us, even if it's something as simple as just making sandwiches for people that are going to be sitting there the whole day, making sure they protect their election. It can be something as small as that, or offering to bring water, or donating to bring some water, or stationery pads. It doesn't have to be these huge acts of service that people think that they are. There'll be many of us, 10,000 around the country doing this. And I can guarantee you that for an organization like myself, trying to provide food and things to those kind of people is hard. So everyone lives within or close to their voting station. You can volunteer for a couple of hours. Go sit there with the IEC, watch the election happening, observe and make sure that you're protecting your democracy. It will take 3 hours out of your day. It's nothing.
I mean, I remember I stood in a queue for 3 hours on election day anyway. So
yeah.
Sure. Where were you voting?
No, I was pleased to see that a lot of people pitched up in my municipality. A lot of people in my local ward went to vote.
It's 94.
No. The last local and provincial government elections.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And I was quite impressed with that, because obviously then I live in a neighborhood where people give a shit, which is cool.
That's
right?
great, because
I like that. So I don't mind waiting in a queue. And as Mbali says, if you're in a municipality where people are doing less, then that means you have the excuse to get involved more.
True.
Good call. And we will give out all the details of the Groundwork Collective on the site when we put the podcast up. So you can go then and find out more by joining up with Mbali's social media and everything else. But let's turn to VVIP, Voters' Voices in Politics, and what you're doing, Bafana. Tell us how we can get involved there.
So we are going to the streets of Joburg, everywhere. There's Northwest, Northern Cape. We are coming to the nearest city, the nearest town. And what we would love you to do is to welcome us. We are the platform. We want you to speak to us. So don't be scared of my voice. Come to the microphone, speak your mind.
Right.
Secondly, also, the support is needed. We are a small team. We are trying to run on the best possible budget. So if you have some money in there, send that money and let's build a nation together. I think also in terms of expertise, if you know or you are good in media space, whatever your profession might be that could benefit this project even further. If you want to donate to that, please come through. Let's work together. But what are we? We are a voice. We will be speaking to the people on the ground, a platform for all young people to share their thoughts about voting and our nation.
And I just want to throw this in too, which I think will be very, very valuable going forward, is that for anybody in a commercial enterprise who wants to know what young people think, that research is invaluable. Right. I mean, Mbali, you're going to be discovering all kinds of things from young voters that will be massively applicable in the marketplace for brands who want to get hold of these young people, for people who want to engage with them in a meaningful way and who want to know what they truly think. We'll ask them for you and we'll put it all together and make it useful for you. So there's digital collaboration, there's strategic content creation, there's education, there's inspiration. There's a whole lot of good stuff going down here, and people can find out all about that as part of the podcast party and VVIP, and then obviously with Groundwork Collective too. So well done, everybody. I think this is the start. We've still got, they haven't announced the election yet, so they'll probably do it around May. What do you suggest there, Mbali? Probably around May, June, maybe?
The rumors are definitely that it's probably going to be around the 22nd of May as it stands.
Okay.
Oh, it's not the 1st. Some billionaires said the 1st of May. I don't know where they got that thing from. But you never know. We'll hear. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Very good. Mbali, keep doing the good work that you're doing. It's amazing to see how many people you're reaching on a daily basis and helping to inspire these people to become the leaders that they want, rather than waiting for someone to just magically pitch up like a genie out of a bottle. I mean, we all look at, do you look at our politicians and we go, is that the best we can do?
Dude,
you know,
we are the ones we've been waiting for.
No, but you're laughing because you know it's true, right? You're like, is that what we deserve?
Is that the best we can do? Have you seen the parliament? Is it our parliament, chief? Is it clear? Hey, let me keep quiet. Hey, people are watching.
There's no parliament. It's still burnt out. You know.
Well, they arrested
the sittings. I've said the sittings. How people are falling asleep. Some are walking on slow motion. I'm like, how do you run a country like that? But anyway, let me keep quiet.
All right, very good. Well, we will be keeping you up to date right here on CliffCentral.com with all of the stuff that we're doing. The stuff we're doing with Mbali, the stuff that we're doing with Bafana, and most importantly, the things that you can get involved in. So thanks, everybody. And good luck. Power to all of you. I know that there's a little break coming up with the December holidays. Everybody deserves a break, even hardworking people like Mbali. But we will be back in the new year, and we'll be hitting this running and making lots of things happen along the way. So stay with us, and we'll keep you filled in as well. Very, very good. Thanks, Mbali. Thanks, Bafana.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Good stuff. Awesome. That's
see you in Jan, buddy. Let's go work.
Godspeed.
Yeah. Very good.
Bye.
All right. Cheers, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Cheers.